Resident Evil is one of my favorite franchises ever, and to think that just a few years ago this franchise was going to be doomed is insane. I can remember it like it was yesterday when Resident Evil 6 came out and it was the most mediocre game I've ever seen Capcom make. And don't forget, Capcom made this piece of crap before, so why am I here talking about Resident Evil games? Well, first of all, hi, I'm Bappo and I really like this franchise. And this video is all about the game that saved this franchise but also doomed it at the same time. Yeah, I'm talking about Resident Evil 7 is the 25th installment in the Resident Evil franchise, which is a lot of games by the way. This game is developed by Capcom using their new RE engine, which is creme de la creme engine. Look at these beautiful graphics. Before Resident Evil 7 came out, the franchise was on its downfall. Resident Evil 4 was a great game, and its popularity changed the franchise into a completely new genre. Before Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil was known for its scary survival gameplay, but Resident Evil 4 decided to be an action horror game with a bit of survival sprinkled on top of it. And since RE4 was such a hit, Capcom went to make more action horror RE games, like Resident Evil 5 for example, which is basically RE4 but a bit worse. But we don't care about that. Resident Evil 6 is the one that really changed the franchise into a pretty bad direction. Resident Evil 6 is not even a horror game, but an action game, with explosions, sick-ass cutscenes, and way too many characters and campaigns to even talk about. After the release of Resident Evil 6, the franchise wasn't looking so good anymore, and there needed to be a change, and a change happened. Rather than changing the genre again, Capcom decided to go back to its roots and make another survival horror Resident Evil game, and that's how RE7 was made. And without further ado, let's start with the In Resident Evil 7, you play as Ethan Winters, in the nice state of Louisiana, and if you've never been there, the best way to describe it would be Fahrenheit from Dark Souls 3. You drive there in the hopes of finding your missing wife and bring her back, and when a woman is missing in America, that means she's probably cheating on you. After driving for hours, you reach an old house, and you decide to ring the bell a couple of times. They don't answer, so you decide to take the scenic route, filled with crows eating carcasses and your mandatory spooky man walking off camera scene. After finding another entrance, you decide to break into the house, finding some delicious food filled with cockroaches. Walking just a bit, you will find a cassette tape labeled Ghostbusters Episode 55, and to not spoil the show for you guys, they all die at the end. Luckily for Ethan Winters, he decided to follow the old tape in the hopes of, I don't really know. After exploring the flooded basement, you finally find your wife locked behind bars in a sex dungeon of some sort. But that's not cheating, right?
Daddy's coming. We need to go.
Daddy?
Well, confirming that she was cheating, Ethan gets mad and leaves her, prompting her to turn into a meth addict and changing her nationality from American to British, and she proceeds to stab you multiple times. But luckily for Ethan, he is a Resident Evil protagonist and he can just use a bit of goop juice to heal his wounds. The wife, sad that she couldn't kill her husband, changes tactics and starts to perform some self-domestic violence in the hopes that she can blame it all on Ethan on court. That doesn't work, so she chooses to go back to her first option, which is to kill Ethan. But luckily for us, this time we have a plan, and that plan is called Axe Her on the Shoulder, and it's effective. After killing our wife, the phone rings and we decide to pick it up.
Carl, it's Officer Hernandez. Who?
Back to the main task. Since we stole the bolt cutters, Ethan decides to be an electrician and fixes up the electricity in the house. We go to the attic where we find our lovely G17 handgun. Hopefully we don't have to use it. And by a stroke of luck, our wife is still alive and with a chainsaw nonetheless, so we decided to practice our second amendment and safely discharge 2 clips of 9mm bullets on her. And now that she is fully dead, hopefully, we decided to leave this place. But as soon as we're about to do that, we...
Welcome to the family, son.
That was the introduction for Resident Evil 7, where it taught us a lot of shit. For example, our wife is a bitch. But the main reason why I like this game comes down to the pacing and the gameplay. In this game, you will go through 7 areas in total, and every one of them could either take you 30 minutes or 3 hours, if you like to take your time. And that's a good thing. Normally when a linear game handholds you and forces you to complete an area you don't really like, fucks up the pacing of the game. Like imagine if you were playing Dying Light and all of a sudden a zombie invades you and you're forced to... that actually happens. But my point still stands about the pacing of Resident Evil 7. If you feel like you missed some things or you are not prepared enough for what's to come, the game simply allows you to backtrack, and to encourage you even more, the molded don't respawn in areas that you cleared, and if you finish said part of the game, there will not be any enemies distracting you from just chilling. And that's what I like about the pacing in the first half. In the second half, the game decides to throw away Ethan and let you play as Mia, with all of the weapons and resources you got as Ethan thrown out the window. And that's a good thing in a horror game. It makes you feel vulnerable and uncomfortable, but in Resident Evil 7's case, it does the complete opposite. First of all, we don't care about Mia. She's a shallow character, so if anything happens to her, we don't really care. And second of all, the game unironically makes you play a 2-hour-long flashback scene of what happened inside the boat. Yeah, I'm talking about the boat section of the game, by the way. Funnily enough, after playing that 2-hour-long flashback part, now you have to do everything you did in that flashback part, but now you don't have a powerful gun, instead you have a pistol. So it's basically Capcom trying to pad out the game as much as they can. And it's not just my opinion, a lot of people don't like this boat section, and I think that's the reason why. It's because it's forced and the pacing is way off. This feels like it could have been a 30-second cutscene rather than a 1 or 2 hour long gameplay part. Speaking about gameplay, Resident Evil 7 is a survival horror game, which means that you as a player will have to manage your resources carefully in order to not be broke, I guess. But that's not really true. In RE7 you can use multiple guns, multiple consumables and throwables, there is a pretty surface level crafting system, multiple secrets and collectibles, but also there is resources like bullets, herbs and drugs, I guess. You can use all of these tools sort of like an immersive sim in order to tackle obstacles or clear out the molded, which are the enemies in this game. RE2 had zombies, this game has the molded. And this game has quite the variety, believe it or not. There's like 7 total variations. All of them have their own unique movesets and weaknesses. But let's talk about the resource aspect of this game. I don't like it, especially on normal or hard difficulty. The game gives away too much resources to the point where there is no consequences to wasting them anymore. And that's the weird part, because at the start, the game barely gives you enough resources to deal with the threats, so your mind automatically tricks you into thinking that they are more valuable than you think, leading you to be very careful when using them. But near the end of the first half, you will have enough ammo, enough healing items, and basically enough anything to complete the whole game. Which is why that kinda sucks, cause I never felt like I was surviving. It always feels like I'm just enjoying the ride at that point. So, Resident Evil 7 is my favorite Resident Evil game. Yeah, the game isn't perfect, but it's still amazing. Although I glazed this game throughout the entire video, I still haven't talked about my favorite part of this game, which is the amount of content it has, from DLCs to fun game modes it offers. So if you want to see another video where I pretty much talk about the content still left, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. How about this? 12 likes and I'll make another video about this game again. So yeah, at the end, I just wanted to say that this game isn't better than Sonic City. Fuck you guys, bye bye.
Probably gonna hit that don't save changes again. Used to write a song a day. It's just that lately my perfection's in the way of me, and I can't make no changes to save me. Wish I could write more and care less. Wish I could write more and care less. Write more and care less and care less.